Hello and welcome back to the Cocked Dice. Tonight we're going to do something a little different. I fancied painting up something that wasn't a Space Marine again, and I've been knocking through a bunch of Batman miniature game models, and this guy was released the other week and just seemed like a cool opportunity to do a bit of a tutorial on how to paint kind of ghostly figures. There's loads and loads of tutorials on kind of painting the nickel dioxide green-esque figures, and I wanted to do something a bit more blue while still using some of the same technique. So let's have a look at what we need. Basically, what you want is a lot of different whites and greys, kind of palish colours. We're going to use these to lay down some base coats essentially that we're going to then wash over, and that will give us some variations in tone so that this model isn't all just white and blue. So the model I'm using tonight is the Gentleman Ghost Night Models. So I'm going to focus on painting the model. I'll do the base separately later and just show you a video of it done. So it's not a full painting tutorial, it is literally just covering the ghost elements. But these techniques could equally be used on any ghost miniatures such as Nighthaunt for Age of Sigmar. So we'll take it away. So essentially we're going to use 3 off-white colours to begin with to lay down some base coats. The first one is Pallid Witch Flesh. This has some kind of warmer brownish pinkish tones in it. For the most part, where we want to keep it kind of greyish white, we're going to use grey cere, and then some variation in colour where we want some slightly darker greys and blues. We're going to use celestra grey as the base coat. So look at this model. I'm going to keep the outer cloak white. I'm going to do his shoes and his waistcoat as the darker grey, and his trousers and jacket as grey cere. And then the Pallid Witch Flesh will be literally for his shoes, basically anything that's left. Start off with some celestra grey. I'm going to use quite a big brush because I want to just get it down quickly. I'm going to paint his waistcoat. First of all, just a quick coat over this. So waistcoat, shoes I think, rim of the hat I think we'll do in, and gloves we'll do in celestra grey. So there we have the celestra grey done. We'll move on. We'll move on now to grey cere, and we're going to paint his jacket, which you can just see the sides of here, and the tails are hiding right inside his outer coat. His overcoat, and we'll do his trousers in grey cere as well. So there we have the celestra grey and the grey cere done. I'm going to add a bit of Pallid Witch Flesh to him now, mainly to pick out this, and we'll do the ruffles in it as well, I think. Just to throw in some, yeah, I'll do that in them, just to throw in some different shades in there. So there we have all the kind of base colours down on him now. Next we'll move to the more interesting bit. Now I'm going to use a bit of a mix. If you have it at home, I'd suggest using GW's Contrast, no it's not Contrast is it, it's a technical paint, Nighthaunt Gloom I think it's called. I have it on pretty good authority, that essentially it's the same as Dark Reaper. So I'm going to use Dark Reaper and some contrast medium and make my own contrast. So now that this has had a few minutes to dry off, we're going to use our glaze stroke contrast paint, just paint over him. So this is about a 1 to 2 mix of Dark Reaper and technical contrast medium thing. So it's quite a thin wash, as you can see, and it's going to sit nicely in the cracks. So we're just going to wash this all over like this, get it right and work it into all the crevices and deep spots. We don't want it on too thick, just work over the model nice and quickly. So there we go with the contrast paint. On some of these higher patches I've just wet my brush a little bit and just swept some of the paint off, just to keep it a little lighter. You can see it's a fairly bodged job at the back. I made a mistake down here and missed a bit. I'm going to clean that up in a minute. If you're relatively new to painting or you want to get this done quickly, at the end of the day, that's probably sufficient. It's got all the shades and it's got some different colours in there. You can just about pick out the fact his waistcoat's a slightly darker colour than the rest of him, and his inner jacket's slightly different colour to his outer jacket. So we're going to put this guy aside for a minute and let him dry off, and then we're going to come back on and start adding a few fairly gentle highlights to some of these areas just to lighten him up and bring him back into a kind of more ghostly white form. So this guy's had a little bit of time to dry off now, and as you can see it's gone a little bit shiny as the glaze, but we'll fix that with a bit of matte coat later. We're now going to go back over some of the colours, starting with Celestra Grey. So if you remember, we did his waistcoat, his shoes and the hat brim in this, so we're just going to pick it back out again nice and quickly. So that's the Celestra Grey tidied up a little bit. So now we've done Celestra Grey, we're going to use Grey Sear. We're going to go back over his trousers, his outer jacket, his hat that we painted earlier. We're also going to do a quick highlight over the areas we've just painted Celestra Grey as well. Okay, so there we are with the Grey Sear paint, and we're going to move on now to some Corax White. That's going to go all over the outer cloak, and then we're going to highlight the two previous colours as well. And there we have all the Grey Sear done. I'm going to pick out the pallet brush flesh bits next. That's his cane and his ruffle in the most part. So I'll just pick them out quickly now. So there's that colour done there. And finally we're going to move on to some ceramite white. So I've thinned down some ceramite white with Lamia Medium. We're just going to do a second highlight on the outer cloak, just bring it right out to white. Again, you may require 2 coats of this if you've thinned it down too much. That's fine, it should go on really like a bit of a glaze. Helps us build up some layers and some definition without it being too sharp a change in colour. And there we are with about 4 coats of ceramite white on various bits of his coat. We've got a fairly clean transition there. You can really pick out just the differences in shade between kind of darker scent here, the white outside, the hat especially pops out really nicely. Really happy with that band that came out slightly different colour. The frills, there's a slight pinkiness too there, but you can't really pick it out. The cane as well. I think those just slight variations in the greys and whites just really helps to get the model to pop out. Next steps with this guy now is going to be a wash all over with a clear matte varnish. I'm just going to use a brush on varnish for that, just a nice thin coat all over him. And then obviously I need to base him up. This is just going to be a grey stairwell with some cream candles, so I'm not going to show that on film, but I'll show you the finished model in just a moment. Thanks very much for joining us. And thanks for joining us here at the Clock Dice. Why not like this video and add a comment below? It really helps boost the channel. And while you're at it, if you click on the icon below, you can subscribe to the channel for all the latest updates as soon as they're live. Why not check out some of our other videos and playlists? You can click on the ones on screen right now. Take care, and we'll see you next time.